Baker's the potato salad person, right? You let him bring the potato salad, sit the dish over to the side, nobody eats it.
It's got flies over
on
it.
the way out, he dump in the trash. Give him his bowl back, take it home so he don't get in trouble with his wife. Hey, what's going on? Steve Smith Sr. here, cut to it. My man Coley. And we got a special guest today. We got some things rumbling and going on. Hey, first of all, let's get this out of the way. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hit the subscribe button to listen weekly. And then grammatically correct me as well. Whatever you have that you don't like, go ahead and put it in the comment box. I check it once a year. So, hey, do what you do, all right? So, but hit that subscribe button. Man, I got 4 interracial kids at the house that need a fantastic Christmas. And Coley got some kids too that he needs a fantastic Christmas. So, hey,
that's right.
If you need a tax write-off, I'm your guy.
How we doing, 89? How we feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good. You see with the Mike Tyson? You see me with the Tyson get up? You know, the Christmas festivities are coming out. You know, once Halloween is over, you got Thanksgiving, Christmas. So I'm starting to get into Christmas colors, starting to feel festive, but also, keeping my same swag going on. So,
of course,
so how are you?
And I'm great. It's a big week. It's the Steve Smith Bowl week. I don't know if you realize we got Panthers, Ravens. That's a Steve Smith. That's for your heart. That's for the apple of your eye this week. It's a big week.
Yeah, okay. This how you starting off? You gonna put me on front street like that?
I feel good. I feel like it was the best weekend of football, start to finish, that we've had all season. So I feel it's about time. We were due.
Yeah, we were. Hey, let's bring in what do we call him? Is he a friend of the show or a friend of underdog? Like how do we go about this?
I think we should save friend till after, see how it goes. I don't want to just give him the F tag immediately, but he's a coworker at minimum. He's our pal.
Well, tell me about this coworker because this is the first time I'm working with him.
Me too. We were in the other room off camera, at a different camera, just chopping it up. Yeah. He's a German Canadian Rams fan, so one of one has to be one of one. Yeah. But our pal Sosa, he's here and he's going to tell us what is going on with the Rams and how they get out of the mess they've put themselves in.
All right, Sosa, come on in, man. Welcome to the Cut to It podcast. Word on the what's this? YouTube streets or
the streets?
The virtual streets, right? The metaverse streets. Yeah, you have a little bit of insight, and I have to start off as saying this. I believe that the Los Angeles Rams are in trouble.
I'm not going to disagree with you. You guys were just talking about this is the best week of football we've had. I'm going to have to disagree. I watched John Wolford and Colt McCoy play football for about 3 hours. That was not enjoyable. It was not fun. You talk about the Rams. Yeah, they're in a bad spot right now. They really are. Obviously, they had like this all-in mentality last year. They go out and get Von Miller. They go out and get OBJ. They trade future assets to do it. Yeah. They kind of pushed all their chips into the middle of the table, and it worked, right? They won the Super Bowl. But there's always a cost to pay, and we've arrived, and the team looks bad right now. I don't know how they get out of this rut. The offensive line is just absolutely terrible. They're the worst in football right now. Can't run the ball, can't pass protect, and when you lose in the trenches pretty much every snap, you're likely going to lose football games. So it feels like they're kind of falling further in this hole, and they don't really know how to climb out, and injuries aren't helping. So it's just ugly, but it's not just bad. It's unwatchable, and that's what makes it really tough.
Well, let's just go down that. Let's break that down because I do have. I was thinking over the weekend and just kind of watching and understanding, watching them last week, trying to figure out what's going on. Man, watching Matt Stafford and then seeing the elbow injury, I have to go back. I was on Thursday Night Football before Amazon took over, and we were on site, and I just noticed Matthew Stafford's arms, right? And this is just a football guy in me, right? I'm a people watcher. And if you ever watch quarterbacks, tennis players, baseball players, there's a distinct difference in their arms when they're constantly using, like pitchers, quarterbacks, and tennis players. When you're right-handed or left-handed, your forearm or bicep or completely whatever dominant hand you're using to hit or throw usually is significantly bigger than the other arm. If you're left-handed, your left arm, forearm is bigger than your right hand, vice versa. But one thing I noticed about Matthew Stafford, he's always had that sleeve on. His right arm is not significantly bigger than his left arm. And I understand he's older. I understand all of that. But I'm just talking about just first glance. I don't see it. And then now you start to see, right, that you're hearing might be something in that elbow, whether it's Tommy John surgery required, whatever the case is, and I'm not trying to assume, I'm just kind of going off reports. That makes me wonder and kind of draw my own conclusion based off all this information. So you got Matthew Stafford, his elbow. Then you see they were all in with CMC in the trade, what they were potentially going to give up. And then you hear Brian Burns. What the Rams offered Brian Burns, 2 firsts and 1 second round. Why are you giving so much equity down the line for a player? Can he help you? And will he impact? Absolutely. Yep. But it makes me think that the Los Angeles Rams coaching staff and Les Snead general manager, I believe they understand where they are right now. If they're doing that, if they're leveraging that much equity, they understand the window is closing, and it might be closing in the next, I thought 2 years. I think possibly in the next 10 months that this team is trying to go all in to win a Super Bowl to eventually buy them extra time as they do a tear down and rebuild.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree at all. I do think they view it a little bit differently probably than most front offices and coaching staffs do, in the sense that obviously Aaron Donald is coming to the end here. He handed in his walking papers to the team. He didn't officially retire, but he was ready to go, and then they got him back on 3 years. So I think the way they look at this is a 3-year window where you're going to have Aaron Donald, you're going to have Matthew Stafford, you're going to have Cooper Kupp, Jalen Ramsey in his prime. And once that 3-year window is up, it's done for. So I think that they are looking at these things in like this 36-month kind of view, and not just this year, which maybe things change after this year. You never know. Aaron Donald could just hang it up.
But here's the thing, that as soon as you're talking, I think Matthew Stafford's arm or elbow has sped up the process. You say 36? Man, how about 36 days? I don't think months is an accurate statement. And Matthew Stafford could play because I used to be an NFL player rep, which means I understood and I was doing some things that gave me opportunities to get information and learn things. So here's the one thing I learned as an NFLPA rep as going through the process is injury settlements. I was privy to information, injury settlements. So that started having me go down the line of just kind of being nosy. What are injury settlements saying? What is workers' comp? What is all of that? And so one of the things I remember going through the process of my own workers' comp thing was whenever you have a surgery, you automatically, and I'm not a professional, I'm not a surgeon, I don't play one on television. Now, I can put on some glasses and make you think that I can, but I can't. Whenever you have surgery and they open you up, you technically lose a percentage of mobility. as soon as they open you up. That is according to workers' comp filing. Now, whatever the percentage is, I'm not aware, but it was intriguing to me. Percentage. You lose a percentage of mobility. So if you open up your elbow and you have 200,000 miles on that car, and you have to open up that elbow, even if you go back in time and that helps and makes you feel younger. My question is, Matthew Stafford, does he feel younger than a normal 36 with 200,000 miles on him? Or does he go to like 33 and a half? We know he's not going to be 23. He's not bouncing back and say he's going to be Matthew Stafford that was drafted, but the Detroit Lions are putting up great numbers when he was at the University of Georgia. We're saying to Matthew Stafford, who can still throw, but can he throw with the workload that Sean McVay puts on his quarterbacks and likes to run the football efficiently?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a topic, and it was a big topic throughout the offseason, right? He had the elbow issue. He didn't really throw any passes throughout training camp. They were trying to limit his workload, knowing that, going throughout the season, he was probably going to have to throw the football a lot. And it doesn't help when your offensive line's obviously awful. He's getting, pummeled back there snap after snap. And the Rams are bad, so they got to throw their way out of these games now. It's not like you can hand the ball off all of the second half and kind of kill the clock. So I do think there's an issue there that could be something that sort of speeds up this process in terms of how long they think their window is. Obviously, it's something that the Rams have had experience with, right? You talk about Todd Gurley, they give him a bunch of money, and then all of a sudden it's kind of a sunken cost when the knee goes. So there is an issue there. I think how much is it affecting him? I don't really know. It seems like his passes have a little bit less velocity this year, a little bit less accurate this year, which I think most people would probably suggest is the truth. But they are very secretive with this kind of stuff, so it's hard to know.
But we will take an inaccurate Matthew Stafford or over an inaccurate some of these other quarterbacks that are inaccurate. Yeah. Right? A bad day of Matthew Stafford, hell, is a good day for a bad team, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's earned that respect, right? He's a guy who's done a lot in the NFL. Yes. You look back to his Super Bowl run last year. Every time the Rams needed him on 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 7 or any clutch time, he came up. So, he's got a very, very long leash, so to speak. They're not going to really pull the rug under him, but it's hard to not look at this season right now and just view it as a lost season, and it's only maybe going to make things worse. He's getting killed back there. So,
so what do they have? Let's say hypothetically Matthew Stafford is not, for whatever reason, it just doesn't improve. The surgery doesn't help, or he elects not to get surgery. I don't know what the case is. There aren't any quarterbacks out there on free agency that once they hit the market, you're like, that's my guy. He's the guy that's going to step in and replace and put us back where we need to be, with all that they have. They don't have any future draft picks this year. They're giving up some for next year. So that tells me that they're all in. But what are they all in for? Here's what I believe they're all in for. They're all in for, if we can win another Super Bowl this year, or, this is obviously before the season has unfolded in the way, the magnitude that it has. If we can win the Super Bowl this year, when we have to tear down and rebuild, that gives us equity with the fans and with ownership, because they say, hey, look, we did this all in and we got 2 championships out of it. And so, hey, we got 2 championships. We have a plan. We're sticking with it. It seems like the plan that they're sticking with has hit a few snafus, right? It has it, like you're driving, you're driving along, and yes, you put in calculation of, hey, the potty breaks with all the kids. We're gonna stop and grab something to eat, right? We may have to stretch our legs. What's never in the fold for a family vacation and trip is, on the way to the airport, you forget your passports and you're going out of the country. That's never in the fold for plans. And 2 flat tires is never in the plans when you're driving. 1, yes, but 2, oh no.
Well, it's like coming into the season, they had the check engine light on, and they were like,
yes,
that later, and then they just keep driving, like pretending that light's just a decoration, and it's just flashing louder and louder every week.
And the engine is steaming, right?
What do you think was the biggest misstep this offseason? Because I think a lot of people would point right to Allen Robinson. But is there something else in your estimation that could have gone better for you guys?
Yeah, I think I don't know how you could have possibly looked at that offensive line and felt good going into this season. Like, that's wild to me. They did the same thing in 2019 too. Remember, 2018 they were in the Super Bowl, they lose. 2019 they go into the season with a subpar offensive line, and I think the problem is they get a little bit too hard-headed and thinking that they can overcome a lot of these issues when your quarterback is immobile. Like, we're not talking about a Jalen Hurts here. We're talking about a guy that needs a pocket. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to work. So I think that's the biggest issue. And then another thing that's just like really underrated, I think they have so much roster turnover, and some of it is their own doing, some of it is not. I think they lost so much veteran leadership, and that's like something that's hard to quantify, right? You talk about Andrew Whitworth, Robert Woods, Eric Weddle, a lot of these guys that like are keeping Von Miller, all these guys that are glue guys that are keeping a locker room together, they all left. And now it kind of feels like everyone's kind of looking at someone else to step up right now, and nobody's doing it. So I think that was just a very underrated aspect that we didn't know how much it was going to ultimately affect them, but clearly a lot, I think.
I was talking to some folks, and I said, what is unique about the Rams offense when they have all the guys they have or they don't? They said, man, the Rams, they got about 30 or 40 plays, but they run it in so many different variations, right? And what has gotten them success under Sean McVay is they will run this offense. They will run 2 or 3 plays in a row out of 15 different personnels. And what they bank on is, will your guys be more disciplined with their eyes and their body? And 9 times out of 10, 11 men seeing the same thing over and over again with different personnels. You'll have 1 or 2 guys who just take the eye candy. They start becoming the kid that's playing soccer, that's the goalie that's never scored on, who starts to either eat boogers or chase butterflies, right? They're like, oh, yeah. Oh. Right? Ew. They like,
no.
Right? They just, like, they'll line up and they'll run a, what we call it, a wide basic. Wide basic with Tyler Higbee is wide receiver, tight ends on the ball. He's going to run a 12-yard in, right? You got a backside post or a backside go to clear it out, right? Most likely a post, so you can have the high-low, touchdown to check down, right? Flare, halfback in the flat, and then you'll have, with the basic, you'll have either somebody with speed or most likely Cooper Kupp going across the middle. So you have 2 people going high-low that could catch the eye of the quarterback, but also catch the eye of the linebackers. And they're going this way, and then they'll run bunch formation where a reverse release. And they're doing all kind of stuff. Then they'll have the same thing where somebody's, instead of going this way, they're motion across. But they're doing the same play over and over from so many different personnels, alignment assignment, splits, and motion and shifts, to where the defense has to respect what's going on. They know what it is, but because it's lined up differently, they're hesitating. And when you're a step behind, that's a step ahead for the offense. That's a completion. And generally, when you have better and more athletic players, like a OBJ, like a Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, Vance Jefferson, right? All these players, but now they're not either there or hurt or not dressed. Something is amiss, right? And then you have this offensive line who's struggling, and they're giving up pressures, and you always have somebody in Stafford's lap. Man, it's becoming extremely difficult to work this cute tricky window dressing, and Sean McVay does a great job with it. But it's starting to kind of be what's happening in Arizona too with college, where if the athletes are quick and smart, just like the other athletes on the offensive defensive side, then all of a sudden it's not working anymore.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned, I think the offense is fairly simplistic. It's not nothing crazy, right? They just do a lot of different things out of, like you mentioned, different personnel packages, but they do a good job of making everything kind of look similar for the first 3 seconds of the snap, right? And by the time a defense is ready to diagnose what it is, you probably lost that snap already.
Yep.
I think just the issue is they get, like I mentioned earlier, they're just hard-headed in the sense that they want to do the same things over and over again without really adjusting a lot. And I think the problem right now is this offense is primarily going to be 5 or 7 step drop back based. Everything is downfield, vertical type stuff. And you can't do that without an offensive line, right?
Nope.
Like you're going to see guys running around that are open and concepts that are working. And like you mentioned, you're putting these defenders in a bind where they have to pick one or the other, the lesser of two evils, so to speak. But it doesn't work, and it doesn't matter, right? Because Stafford just doesn't have the time to hold the ball long enough for to allow a route to develop downfield, or he's getting hit while he's throwing, and it's going to be inaccurate, that kind of thing. So they can't run the ball. They're behind the chains consistently. They can't get in these like manageable down distances. They're not good enough to be able to pass block on 3rd and 8 and pick these long distances up either, which is just it all kind of like tumbles down, and it just makes it harder on them. And I mean, right now they're probably a bottom 5 offense, if not the worst offense in football, which is so hard to say about a Sean McVay-led team with a quarterback like that. But it's bad, and they keep putting themselves behind the chains, and then they kind of got to dig themselves out, and they don't have the team to allow themselves to convert on long down and distances. So it's shocking, but I mean, I don't know any clearer path to get out of this. I think you look at the game right now that they just came off of with the Cardinals. It might make sense to get under center a little bit more, run a little bit more play action, a little bit more max protect.
Play action means you have to actually run the ball.
Right.
They don't run the Rams are not willing to commit to running the ball consistently. They are consistently inconsistent at running the football.
So I wanted to ask you this even outside of the Rams, because I recently saw someone say play action isn't dependent on how well you run the ball. It's how well you sell that you're running the ball on that specific play.
Yes, but if you aren't running the ball efficiently, I don't have to commit to the run game, because the run game is not a legitimate threat. It's the same thing you look at in the pass game where the team gets down in the second quarter and they have to throw the ball for the next 3.5 quarters, and they're in 2 minutes. It becomes difficult. Like the safeties are back. Nobody's respecting. You run a screen play. It's like, we know you have to pass yourself back into this game.
Right.
So you just have to run. You have to actually just be successful in running a football. You don't have to run it 1,000,000 times. But if you run it twice and you get -5, and then in second play you get -2, and why are you having that as penetration? Meaning you're not hat on hat, bad placement of hands or pad level. It's a reason why. And it's not that you're lacking in running the ball consistently. It's you're lacking to actually make a difference in the run game.
Right.
So what does the Rams do? They're going to finish in the bottom half. They're going to have a high draft pick.
They will not.
But not in the first round.
They will not. Yeah.
Right?
Tough scene.
So where are the Rams going?
That's something that they got to figure out. Usually I would go into an offseason with a decent idea of what the Rams could possibly do to pivot and improve. But right now they're locked in. Like they can't come out of this hole right now. There's no clear path to get out of some of these contracts. You talked about Coley, Allen Robinson. Like they gave this guy a bag, and he can't go anywhere next year. They have to figure it out. And I think that's one of the big issues from this offseason, right? You give this guy so much money, they lose Von Miller, and instead of going out to go get a replacement edge rusher or what have you, they pivot to a receiver that they probably didn't need. I think we were all still fairly excited to see what he could do. And then they come into the season with absolutely no plan on how to use him. And now he's just running out there getting steps on his Fitbit. That's what I said the other day on Twitter. They have to figure out how long they think this window is, if they think there's a possibility to get back to the playoffs next year. And if they do, they have to retool. And I don't know how they're going to do that. It obviously begins up front. I think on both sides of the ball, your edge rushers are subpar right now. Offensive line is absolutely terrible. The regression in health, I think, will probably help to some degree. They haven't been this banged up really since Sean McVay's been the head coach. But at some point that was going to happen. Like, injuries happen to teams and they usually come in bunches. So a tough spot for the Rams to figure out. I think they're still going to think they have the Super Bowl window. And, to some degree, they might be right. The NFC is pretty bad right now. I don't know that there's a team outside of the Eagles maybe that, you would probably bet your money on to win. But they got a lot of ground to make up.
So you're telling me that you believe that the Los Angeles Rams can play with the Dallas Cowboys, the Minnesota Vikings? Is that what you're telling me?
No,
two teams in
not.
the division
I
wouldn't put them ahead of.
I know. They still got to play the San Francisco 49ers. And let me say this. I did buy Call of Duty. Can I just tell you?
Please.
Hey, man, I got lost in the sauce for a few hours, man.
You're sitting.
Yeah, I was sitting there. I was sitting there playing for about 2 hours the other day. I took a break at halftime. I looked up. It was 6:35. Hey,
it happens. One more.
Bro.
Let me get one more, and then you're there for 2 more.
Yeah. So I'm just who do the Rams, like, you're talking about this window to make the playoff Super Bowl? Who they're gonna beat? They lost to the Arizona Cardinals, a backup. Right? They still had to play San Francisco again. Like, I'm not sure who they can beat right now in the NFC.
Yeah, I think the
top tier teams.
Nobody. No, the season's done. It's a wrap. There's nothing else to play for, really. I think in a week or two, you got to honestly start considering things like, do we even want to subject a lot of these guys to hits? Like, they're already talking about Cooper Kupp. He might, miss 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He's got a high ankle sprain.
Yeah,
it might just be better to shut him down, to be quite honest with you.
He had the opportunity. He's like, "Whew, we got lucky." And then you go out there and you do the exact same thing you did last week. Man, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know where this team is. All I would say is this is a team they're in trouble, right? Well, and I think it starts with the quarterback position, right?
As a fan, what is your biggest fear for?
I'm a 49ers fan. Sorry.
No. For Rams fans, what is your biggest fear for these next 3 years?
Well,
because it's like I still think McVay has his eye on like a broadcasting deal. If you're talking bags, they give out big bags. Tom Brady made more from Fox. He's not even there yet. We don't even know if he can do that job. He made more from Fox than he has from the NFL already. So it's like, if you're McVay, do you want to rebuild? Do you want to come in third? Because the Seahawks accelerated their rebuild faster than anyone expected. The 49ers don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon. If the Cardinals ever figure it out, the Rams are a fourth place team in their own division. So it's like, does McVay want to deal with that, or would he rather just jump in the booth, maybe try this coaching thing again in a decade?
I think that window's coming. I think it's coming quick too. I think it's all going to line up. I think Donald, McVay, maybe even Lesney, the GM, I think they all walk away together. Matthew Stafford, it's going to be full-on rebuild, no questions asked, I think, at that point. The only question, I think, is how soon is it going to come? Because what they planned, I think, was we're going to get 3 years out of this Aaron Donald deal. Then everyone's going to walk away. You guys can figure it out afterwards. But like you guys are mentioning, they look horrible right now. They look absolutely awful. I don't know how they get out of this hole. And I'm now wondering, are they going to make it to 3 years? Because it damn sure doesn't look like they will. So the question for me is not, is it going to happen? It's just how soon is it going to happen, and is it going to happen a lot faster than we expected it to?
I think we're watching it happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There's no quarterback in the draft that, look, and the reason I say no quarterback in the draft that can play immediately right now. Look at Justin Herbert, right? Look at how he's done, right? This is a team. We'll get in that later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Justin Herbert later. But
well, it's like, if you're Les Snead, do you consider putting Jalen Ramsey out on the trade block this offseason? Because I'm trying to think, like, who has the type of value where, because like the one problem, and I noticed this with the Patriots last year, it's like when you don't inject the team with draft picks, with youth, you look slow quick, and the Rams look slow, like compared to other teams. There's no. The speed just isn't there because everyone's either an aging veteran or a 5th or 6th, 7th round pick who shouldn't be playing the role they're in.
Like some of the players too that were there, right? Sebastian Joseph Day, like he's playing with the Chargers. Man, he was quietly a menace. Mm-hmm. He did some things that really people didn't understand what he was doing. And he's a guy that makes Floyd kind of get exposed in pass rush and in a run game because Joseph Day and Aaron Rodgers aren't there to kind of Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's getting double teamed. He's going to get double teamed. But when you have Joseph Day, Sebastian Joseph Day. He's a guy that can. He's a grinder. He thrives off the double teams, but he also can play much better when he's going against one-on-ones. Mm-hmm. And then that puts Floyd on the opportunity to be one-on-one. Von Miller, one-on-one. But they don't have those guys now. And so it's starting to kind of show that plug and play next man up. Next man up is a great mantra. That doesn't mean that next man up is actually going to impact the game at the same level that other players are doing it, or situational players. A situational player who's coming in on third down, impacting the game. He pins his ears back. He's fresh leg. He's coming in playing 15 plays. What your New England Patriots, Bill Belichick, is notoriously known for, getting a player that can impact the game 5 times a game over, 15, 16 weeks. Man, that equals to 3 or 4 wins.
Right.
The Patriots have those guys, but the Rams don't have that situational player. And then all of a sudden that situational player becomes a starter, and you realize when he's playing that as a situational guy, he was great. As a every down player, he's lighting the tail, or he's missing something for a specific reason, and we're witnessing it every single play.
Yeah, I think, we talk about obviously all the big losses, the Whitworths, the Hall of Famers. We all know, everyone knows they're great players. But you mentioned like some of those smaller named guys that were really important to the Rams, role players that they no longer have. Sebastian Joseph Day, they play this gap and a half technique up front. There's going to be a lot on their D tackles. Like it's basically a 2-gap system to some degree. They want to play light in the box and stop the run. But like when you lose guys like that, it makes it a lot harder. And then guys like Greg Gaines, now they have to play more snaps. They're less effective themselves. So it has a trickle-down effect, I think, so much more than just these big-name players. They lose a right guard in Austin Corbett, goes to Carolina, gets a big deal. One of the better right guards this season. Like it's the little things that I think the Rams have, for the most part, done a good job at finding replacements for these guys. They let them walk, they get the compensatory pick back, and then they spend that pick, a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick, whatever it may be, find a guy to plug and play, and then they get a big deal, and it's kind of the same thing. But this season is kind of where it's come to the stop. So it's tough, right? They don't have any edge rushers that are stepping up right now. Aaron Donald obviously going to get double and triple teamed. Nobody else has been able to make an impact. And it kind of all just trickles down because now you got your cornerbacks playing 7, 8 yards, 9 yards off the ball on 3rd and 3. They don't even give your edge rushers a chance to get there. Like it's just pitch and catch for these quarterbacks. So schematically, it feels like things need to be fixed, and I don't know that they will be. And then obviously the talent level is just not there. I think that's, at the end of the day, the roster is just not good enough right now.
Well, it's like you have no middle class. You have the high end guys, but the rest of that roster isn't filled out with I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but like average players. Like you either have plus players or subpar players. There's no one in the middle just to do the everyday, every down stuff that you need.
Yeah. And I think they have had those guys in the past, right? And
Right,
that's what's
right.
made them
For
successful.
sure.
And the problem is now the injuries have caught up. And so your high level players, they can't carry everything on themselves. They're getting hurt here and there. Stafford's injured, Kupp's injured.
Yep.
And now when you take out some of those high level players, which they haven't had to do in the past few years, well, now you're replacing them with like, replaceable kind of guys.
Well,
That's
here's the other part. So let's just hypothetically, you lose your middle linebacker, right? Your starting middle linebacker at some point will play, or the Will or Sam linebacker, they will play some part of special teams, right? Say it's just punt. And maybe let's say they don't. But then the backup linebacker is dominant on special teams. Now, all of a sudden, the backup middle linebacker, Sam or whatever linebacker, is now starting. And now his backup is now playing special teams. Yeah. Well, so now you got the number 2 backup starting, and the third linebacker is playing special teams. And the starting backup linebacker is just figuring out why he's not the starter. And the backup to the backup, who's now starting on special teams, you realize why he's not starting on special teams. So now your defense is a step behind. Your special teams is a step and a half behind. And you know what that equals to? That's bad defense.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. That's the trickle-down effect of injuries and the plug-and-play or next man up. The next man up is not a Hall of Famer. Most likely. Right. If he is, he would be playing.
And it sounds like
Definitely.
I feel like you see this every offseason, GMs start buying what they're selling a little too much, where it's like, oh, we replaced guys this way before, we'll just do it again. Like you can't consistently build a competitive roster only through compensatory picks. You just can't. Like you might be able to hit it once or twice in a row, but even go back to the Seahawks. They crushed, I believe it was the 2010 and 2012 drafts. That's when they got Russell Wilson. That's when they got Cam Chancellor. That's when they got Richard Sherman. That's when they built their core. But then for a decade, they had nothing but bad drafts. And that you saw what happened.
But here's what happened too. They also the Seahawks also at that time had over 200 transactions.
Mm-hmm.
In free agency and picking up players, trying to plug and play. As they build in the draft, they were also looking at guys who are out on the street and giving them opportunities and saying, hey, this guy will fit our scheme. We need to do this. We need to do that. Like, they go out and get a CFL player named Brandon Browner. Right? He wasn't drafted.
Right.
He was a guy that was he was part of one of those 200 and some transactions that they were able to plug and play in their system that they felt that fit the system. And it was a darn good transaction because it did fit the system.
Right. Yeah. They were constantly taking swings. So they were trying things constantly. But then once they got that core, they kind of stopped. They were like, we'll just replenish through the draft. And then they were missing and missing and missing. And then it wasn't until this most recent draft where they finally got back on that track. So it's hard. GMs need to be taking those swings. You should never believe like, oh, I've got this figured out, because there's too much proof that no one has ever figured it out on a consistent basis, at least.
Yeah, I think too, even with the resources that they have had, right? They haven't had many first round picks, obviously. Like the stuff that they have spent has been like, it just hasn't worked out, right? You talk about second round picks, Tutu Atwell. This guy hasn't played at all. Like you drafted a 145-pound receiver in the second round. Everyone clowned on you when you did it, and it turns out that was probably a bad decision at the time, right? You had a lot of receivers, so it was already a luxury style pick. But then, probably no one else had him valued in that second round too. So they're overvaluing resources. They're spending second round picks on Cam Akers, who now looks like he has no future with the team. He was obviously really good at some point, but it's been like, we have some of these swings too, and we're missing bad, which hasn't really been the case mostly for the Rams. They have done a good job in the draft, but it's been bad picks, and now nobody's really been panned out for the last 2, maybe 3 draft classes. It hasn't been that great. So that's where it gets you.
Yeah, well, they're definitely in trouble. Sosa, man, we appreciate it. Love to have you on again if you want to talk about other teams, but sounds like you don't know any other teams. So.
He just watches one. He covers the other team on his screen. He just watches the Rams and nothing else.
I am confused, though. So Canada, Germany, Rams, but yet you're wearing a Sox hat.
Oh, that's just for style. I don't even watch baseball. I never watch baseball.
Okay, I was trying to get it all together. You got it's a lot going on in your back. I'm quite confused.
Yeah, it's a different kind of story for sure. I would throw a little bit more in. I'm Croatian too, but that's too much to handle. Okay. This, yeah.
Yeah, you're confused. Well, we have to have you come back on and just talk about how you go from obviously Bayern Munich to the Rams and how that connection, because those obviously are far, they're opposite ends of the earth.
Yeah, I'm up for it. It's it's a different kind of story for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
This is Bandit. He founded Underdog Fantasy so that humans who really love sports could play with their friends and win some big prizes. Tell your human to go to underdogfantasy.com today.
All righty. Coley, we got to talk about this. Jeff Saturday, he's hired in his debut.
Real quick.
How about that, huh?
Real quick. Well, I feel like I can't even talk about that game because you know who he was coaching against, and I'm not allowed to talk about that guy on this show. So
it was tough. I feel bad for Josh.
If you can't beat a guy who went 20-16 in high school, never coached in the NFL before, have you ever seen? Because Mark Davis has come out and said he's our coach. Like, have you ever seen it?
Mark Davis said that he's doing a fantastic job. That's what he said.
Yes, agreed.
I thought that was from a fake. I thought when I saw that, I was like, somebody's fooling around. Nope.
Has a GM or an owner ever spoken on a coach's job security, and that been a good thing?
It never is. That means people are chomping at the bit talking about, hey, we want him out of here. But I'm just surprised. I'm just confused at the. So Jeff Saturday is going to get all this accolades, all this stuff is saying like he's done a great job. It just kind of shows you that the Las Vegas Raiders are in such a pickle and they're in trouble that they let a guy who's never coached. He didn't call one play. I just watched the game. I'm be honest. I watched 7 minutes of the game and I had to turn it off because there was so much fanfare about Jeff Saturday. And there's been so much, people are upset. And the people that are upset, and people are talking about, oh, why are you making it about race? And why are you making it? Well, why we're making it about race is there are some people who are disqualified because of the color of their skin. Think about it. There are people disqualified or we have disqualified them based on the sex. Title IX. There are apparent things that are there that people don't want to address because it's one, they feel like the problem is too big to solve, which I can understand, but they want to say, oh, it's not true. If it is true, there is bias in everything. There's people that are biased in how I look, how you look. Right? We judge people all the time. We act like we don't, but we do. And why people are up in arms is this. There are so many coaches who look for the opportunity, who pray and hope for the opportunity to become a coach, and you got a guy that became a coach based on relationships. And some people can say, I've seen a few quotes of saying, well, Steve, because I said on NFL Network, I said he skipped the line. Some people say, oh, Steve, you skipped the line. Well, this is my platform, so I'll give you an opportunity. I'll go down the line skipping that you believe I skipped. I did 2 years internship at a local radio station here in Charlotte called WFNZ. I tried to learn how to work the circuit boards, answer phones, and then they had me come on a few segments locally. And I sat in the studio and I learned how a show is ran. And then I started coming in once a week and doing the whole 3-4 hour show. Then from there, I got a job in the off season doing Sirius XM Radio, the NFL channel, with Bob Papa, with B-Hop. And then I did that for a couple of years in the off season. Why a Panther and a Carolina Panther and a Baltimore Raven. Then I signed a contract to do a few segments, a few shows with ESPN, Mike and Mike in the morning. So I would play the game, then fly to Bristol that Sunday and work and do the morning, what they call ESPN car wash.
So you started doing that internship while you were still playing?
Correct.
Okay.
I had contracts that I was doing it, and even had an 8 appearance contract with ESPN while I was a player, but had to seek the permission of the Baltimore Ravens coach Harbaugh to ask him, can I do it? Because it would be Monday after a game.
Right.
And he had veto power if he said, hey, because we played bad, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Then after that, I interviewed Fox. I tore my Achilles during that time. I did CBS. Went on their show on Sundays, did a Sunday show. ESPN, went through that process. Then did Fox Sports 1, Fox. So this was over a 3-4 year period. I didn't skip the line. I just wasn't doing the shows that were nationally televised that you saw.
Right.
Now, people can say I'm bad. That's fine. I sometimes watch myself and I go, man, I stuttered on that. I wasn't clear and concise on that. But hey, I didn't skip the line. I interviewed. I did a little bit of my dues and learned this game. So I didn't skip the line. I wasn't randomly picked, called up on air and said, hey, come coach a team. I think people are offended because there are so many coaches. I heard my coworker, Joe Thomas, he talked about the lifestyle. There's so many coaches. It is a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And people are feeling some type of way because Jeff got an opportunity that they have been waiting and working for. And I think this league is based off opinions and information. The opinion, can this player be good enough and hopefully help us one day? And then the information of what his 40 is and his leaping ability, all that stuff, you put it all together, and that's called a draft pick. It's a hunch. It's a wish and a dream. It's a hope. It's a penny, quarter, dime, nickel, Susan B. Anthony, in the wishing well to hope this player would turn out. If we could draft this player out of Missouri named Aaron Donald, who knows, maybe he'll help our team. Nope. He's going to make your team. And so it's just tough that Jeff Saturday got an opportunity that some other coaches have to jump through more hoops to just be told no.
Well, Bomani Jones, I know you had him on your previous show. He's someone I respect a lot. He has pointed out, like, Cadillac Williams just got that job at Auburn. There is a disproportionate amount of a lot of black coaches. The only opportunity they get is interim jobs. That they're there to clean up the mess, not be the solution. You see it with the Houston Texans. They've hired 2 African-American coaches while they're actively telling people we're trying to lose, and when it's time for us to try and win, we're probably going to go a different direction with our coaches. The Panthers, they bring in Steve Wilkes to clean up the mess left by Matt Rule, and we don't know if he's going to be given the opportunity to be there even next year. So it's while I understand with the Jeff Saturday stuff, it may have even been worse had it been given to someone else just to get fired at the end of the season and then given to whoever, Josh Heupel or whoever the next McVay type is.
Well, here's the thing, though. 75% of the athletes in the NFL are African American. And why am I bringing that up? You got to have people that are coaching you or leading you also have the ability to understand you.
1,000%.
Right? And this may be a pretty bad analogy, but I'll just say it. A blind person cannot teach a person with sight to see something. Like you got to, and what do I mean by that? I'm using that as we all have blind spots. Right? I have a daughter. There are some things as a man, a black man, a 43-year-old man, a man that's never experienced a menstrual cycle. How am I going to be able to tell my wife, my daughter, how to handle some of the female things that I have no idea how to deal with? And that can come across extreme, but here's what I mean. I was having a conversation with a coach one time about a particular player that was a teammate of mine, and it was out of two teams. And I remember talking to this coach, and I said, Coach, he goes, man, this player is blah, 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 blah. And he kept saying how he just wasn't getting to him. I said, Coach, stop trying to be his dad. Now, this player that we're referring to that I won't say, this player didn't have his dad in his life. But this individual, this coach had his dad in his life. And this coach, you can see that his father was all written all over.
Right.
He was oozing with the same it factor that his dad had. And what I said to him, Coach, is I said, do you understand that you're speaking from a place that you've been loved on and taught by your dad? This young man hasn't. So you're coming across like trying to be his dad, like every other coach has had. And he's not looking for a dad. He's looking for a coach. Mm-hmm. Obviously, black player, other than black coach. And there was and the coach walked away and said, man, I never thought about it like that. I was trying to be kind of like be his father. My point of all this is, man, race does play a part, because there are so many people in so many situations where height, race, sex disqualifies you. So when you go outside of the normal hiring process, it makes things tough. And you might as well just say, hey, we're going to, as a corporation, you can hire whoever you want to. But you also, as a corporation, have this Rooney rule that is, you're having a rule because you're trying to implement the rule because people don't want to. They are disqualifying people because of. So you have to implement this rule. So the rule is in place for people to adhere to it, because they will most likely will not interview some of these other people. It's like a speeding ticket. The speed limit is there because without it being there, people will what?
Oh, they'll go whatever. Yeah, they'll go. You'll see a wide range. You'll see people going 25. You'll see people going 95 in the same street because that's how people are. Not every person's the same as someone else. But
common sense is not common.
No.
Right? And talking about that, so let's transition, man, to Brandin Cooks situation.
Okay.
They strip him of his captaincy, of his captain patch. Man, I saw people all over the board talking about Steve. I had talked to Brandon when I was down there. Great conversation, man. Fantastic conversation. Right? And some of the conversation, I won't reveal what he said, but I'll reveal everything I said. He called me and he said, man, I just want to know, what do you think? What should I do? And first of all, I said, what's going on? So think about this. Brandin Cooks is told or it's a process like, I don't know all the details and I didn't ask specifically, but I'm throwing this scenario out there. Somebody said on Twitter, it's like, Steve, I respect you, but I can't respect Brandin Cooks because he gave up on his team. Then another person said, man, blankety blank him because of, he's screwing over my fantasy team. I had him starting today. Oh, okay, yeah. So when he's thinking about his mental health, he's thinking about your fantasy team. And when I say mental health is this. He's told at some point in that week, either Monday or Tuesday, hey, you might be getting traded. Then on Wednesday, you find out I didn't get traded. Deadline's over. And then I was supposed to play on Thursday night, like nothing happened. So the team and him decided, based off that, he was like, look, I need some time to kind of process this.
Right.
So let's walk through this. Hey, you work for a computer company. Hey, you work for Microsoft, and Microsoft says, hey, Coley, need to bring your key fob, bring your parking pass. We're going to let you go. Actually, we're going to send you off to Dell. Then you go to Dell, IBM, and you're getting your bags packed. You're like, well, okay, I guess so. Appreciate y'all looking out for me, I guess. And then they go, wait. About several hours later, came back. It didn't fall through. Sorry. But hey, I just want you to know, come on in tomorrow, and we got a big project. We need you to sell and go ahead and do it. You get there tomorrow, and what sparks it off of you start to just can't focus is they forgot to reactivate your parking pass to get in the parking garage. So now you got to park outside like a non-employee that you felt yesterday. You felt betrayed yesterday. And then all of a sudden you come in the next morning, you go, exactly how I felt is exactly how they treated me. Who's going to just show up to work the next day like, hey, I just got fired. I just got traded. But you know what? I'm good. I'm still here. Man, you're not going to just come in and just pick up your coffee and head to the water cooler and start talking to Janice and Ricky and Mike and Joe and Brian and Taylor like hey, everything's all good. Man, you're going to be side-eyeing looking at folks like, I should have just quit, right?
Is it more awkward for him? Was he actively asking out? So is it more awkward for him?
See, I can't reveal what.
Sure. I'm more thinking it's like a fan. As fans looking at the situation, it's like
so. As a fan, they obviously came to some agreement because trade talks were happening. So if trade talks were happening and they were almost like at the ledge, then that means both parties agreed that they were probably going in a different direction.
Definitely.
And then you strip it to kind of basically say, well, you don't have he's still a leader.
Right.
He's been doing everything they asked him to be. Be a professional. Some people say, well, he wasn't a professional because he asked. Would you like him to properly talk to people and say, hey, this isn't working out? Or would you like somebody just to pout and quit and get in the face of their receivers coach in the middle of the game and get all and bow up?
Rip your jersey off and run off the field mid-game. Yeah.
You got to pick your poison, man.
Right. I think one thing that makes this situation a little different is he signed the extension in the offseason, which I think a lot of people saw like, hey, the Texans aren't good. So it was a little strange to see him.
Well, I didn't think he believed they would be this bad.
Sure.
Right? Here's the problem with every football player, every GM, every head coach, right? Their problem is in training camp, and in off season, man, and weightlifting, guys get faster. Ricky walks around the corner with a shirt off, and you like, hey, my man Ricky he looks like he's ready to play. I know he was a step too slow last year. He wasn't in the weight room as much as he should, but he's committed. He's benching 500 pounds. He's running. He's got his weight down. He looks good. And yes, that's because he's going against a dude that isn't very good on your own team. Right? We all look good in the backyard. Man, running routes, looking real good. Man, you looking great on the basketball rim in the driveway, hitting Steph Curry's from the logo. Then all of a sudden you get in the game, and you over there got Gary Payton, the reincarnation of the glove that's covering you. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, man, Little Johnny wasn't as good as I thought he was.
Yeah.
Because Little Johnny was playing Little David. Little did we know that David, it's the first time he was playing when he just bought his cleats last night. And so, yes, he signed the extension. But he realized, I think everybody realized, man, Davis Mills is taking a step back because he's learning a new offense. You got to remember, last year, Pep Hamilton was not the offensive coordinator for the whole season. He didn't have a full training camp. So what we're seeing out of Davis Mills, the same thing we're seeing out of Trevor Lawrence is, even though they're in their sophomore year, they're not sophomore slumps. They're redshirt freshmen.
I was going to say Mac Jones too.
Yeah, they're starting over because they're having to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
And at the expense of Brandin Cooks. People could disagree and say, well, he shouldn't have signed it. Listen, people do all kind of stuff for money, and I'm not justifying what he's saying, but let me tell you, the Powerball lines let you know how people act when real money's on the table.
Well, part of the reason, like Brandin Cooks has had such a strange career. He's consistently 1,000-yard guy, and he gets traded every offseason. So part of the reason I thought he re-signed with Houston was like, hey, let me get some financial security, because that's why you're in the NFL. Part of the reason why you're in the NFL. But also, I just like to say, I'm tired of calling the moving company. I'm tired of calling a realtor. I'm tired of doing that every offseason. I thought it was more, listen, I know the Texans, we're not winning the Super Bowl next year, no matter how.
I think that may be the case too. But at some point, just like the Los Angeles Rams that we talked about, you figure out during some point in the season, you go, just ain't happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things that I will share that I talked to him about is, man, I did one of the biggest screw ups one time ever. Right. He was saying, he said, Steve, if you were me, when you went through the stuff you went through in Carolina, what was the biggest mistake you made? And one of the biggest mistakes I told him that I made was, I did not include my wife, my better half, in my business decisions in football. And so what I talked to him about, I actually had to call my wife because I was a hypocrite. Because I didn't actually do that myself. I remember one time, Jeff Davidson was the offensive coordinator. We were playing the New Orleans Saints. And, man, I rolled my ankle because we ran the exact same play. I rolled my ankle. We ran a screen. Because of that screen, I rolled my ankle. But we ran the exact same play last year that I told him quit running. And so I was sitting there, and it just dawned on me. I was sitting in the meet, and I go, man, that's the exact same play we ran last year. And so I got up, Went upstairs to the general manager's office and said, I'm out of here. I don't want to be here. Trade me. And man, I ended up being here for like 3-4 hours. And I was having a conversation with my agent, general manager, and not with my wife.
Right.
She came home and was like, wow, glad you let me know what was going on. And so I'm saying all this is, man, what I talked to Cooks about was really about, man, ask your wife, because your wife knows what you're capable of handling. Our better halves know our threshold. We think as men, especially as football players, man, I'm good. I know my threshold. I'll be able to smile and wave until your key fob don't work. Until something about that business irks you and it makes you start to second guess all the decisions. And then all of a sudden, the water doesn't taste good. The shower ain't hot enough. The food ain't good enough. You start nitpicking little small detailed things that ultimately erode at you. And so I believe him not playing that Thursday night against the Philadelphia Eagles was also professionalism, but also personal awareness. Because if he would have came out there and just been on the sideline, just kind of chilling, look with that disgruntled face and look checked out, then that would have been a bad look.
Well, also, it's kind of dangerous if you're playing at mentally 50%. That's how you get hurt if you're not locked in, especially in the NFL. Any sport, it's dangerous, but specifically football.
More than that, it also tells you what kind of teammate you are if your guys can see that you've checked out.
1,000%.
And the fact that he wanted to make sure that he was 100% locked in before he came back out there, I honestly have to say, man, I give him so much credit for taking that personal responsibility versus just kind of like just grabbing a check or stealing a check and have no desire to play.
Right.
So I thought it was unique. I thought some people kind of missed what he did.
Did the Texans miss it if they went and stripped his captaincy after it?
I don't know.
Right.
I saw that and I was like, man, here's the thing. That captain's patch is for fans. There are people who are captains who people don't respect as captains. There are captains. There are people who are also captains who don't have a patch.
Right.
That are seen as captains.
Right.
So that's for the fans. There are some captains who are captains, but then there are some who aren't. And a patch, right? A patch is like age. Just because you're in your 40s, I've been a guy in his 40s who's immature. Your age and patches don't mean that that's who you really are or who you aren't. So them stripping of him that captaincy or that patch doesn't change anything.
Right.
You still got some young guys who need guidance. Right? And I think he's mature enough, right, that back in the day, if they did that to me when I was younger, I'd been like, oh, no, I'm not a captain. I'm not a leader. I'm just thinking about me. All right? So you have to be careful the mixed messages you're leaving.
Right.
But I don't believe that was a mixed message. He was almost traded. He wasn't traded. He took some time to process things. I think that's professional.
And I'd imagine he probably gets traded this winter, or this spring, rather.
I mean, you just got to finish the season.
For sure. Yeah. But it's like the writing appears to be. I think it was because of the extension, it almost made him more difficult to trade. And then in the offseason, it should work itself out. So,
it's going to work itself out.
Yeah.
Based off everything. Man. All right. Let's get into some of these games. Week 10. Woo! Carolina Panthers took that win. You see that, right? But it was raining. P.J. Walker's ankles rolled. So that gives now Baker Mayfield going against the Baltimore Ravens. I guess because he's played in that division, he knows them. Okay.
They know him. That's
yeah. You ain't lying. They know. Sam, but here's the thing. I said this here, and a few people took it. Was like, really, Steve? Man, if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm not playing. I don't care how good you say I'm looking. I don't care all that competitiveness. Man, I'm not playing. If I'm Sam Darnold, whatever's hurting on Sam Darnold, I would say it's still hurting. It's tight. Don't feel good.
Why?
Because if Sam Darnold goes out there and plays, what's the probability of Sam Darnold going out there playing really well?
Extremely low.
Okay. If he doesn't play well, which we don't believe he will, what is ultimately Sam Darnold going to do? I think he solidifies his exit in the league if he goes out there and plays. Because right now, he can sit back. He's a backup. And what is a backup? A backup is a guy that can fill in, show flashes, that he could play a little bit for a couple of games, help you just get through the season, right? We got an injury. Let's just help us get through there. We win, and they say, oh, wow. What do you think? You go, yay, but go sit back over there. And he could go do that for the next 10 years, or he could get right like a Geno Smith, learn, work on his craft, and all of a sudden rise like a phoenix from the ashes. Or he could just be a Matt Barkley, be on a couple of teams, fill in, help, and make about $30 million with, for the next 10 years, $3.5 million for the next 10, $30 million going about your business.
I was going to say, what we talked about it with Mills and a couple of second-year guys. Has he had the same coordinator consecutive years? His whole career?
Pep was Pep Hamilton was a quarterback's coach, and then became once they let him go, Lovey became the head coach. Then Pep became offense coordinator.
Oh no, I'm saying Darnold. Like he came in with Gase, right? Adam Gase drafted him. Am I getting that right?
Yes.
And then that was a quick turnover.
Yep.
And then I can't remember. I mean, the Jets' coaching history is a mess that I can't remember off the top of my head. But and then he goes to Carolina. He's got Rule last year, and then this year.
No. Joe Brady.
Right. Yes.
Joe Brady. Then someone else.
And then McAdoo.
And then now McAdoo.
Yeah. So he
right, which are two different offenses.
Yeah, and
two different offenses.
Neither potentially great. So it's two. So it's I'm not even saying like I'm in on Sam Darnold by any means, but I do think that consistency matters, especially when evaluating someone.
Exactly right, but I'm just saying I wouldn't play. I don't see it helping.
Well, we were talking about the beginning of the episode. Let's say Matt Stafford is hurt, needs surgery. He's not going to be back till week 8 next year. If the Rams are looking for a cheap option and Sam Darnold's a free agent, they might say, hey, come start these first 8 games for us. That might give him a second chance. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and he might not get that if he flames out the rest of this year.
Yeah. Because teams are going to need quarterbacks.
Always. But
teams are going to need better backups. Look at Chase Daniels. Chase Daniels has been a lifetime backup.
Legendary career. Legendary.
Man, fills in great.
Colt McCoy, too. He's good for a start of year.
He'll go in there and you go, oh, and then he'll do something, and then your guy gets healthy, and you're like, shoot, yeah, we don't have to. Right? So, I don't know. So here's the thing. All right. So
what was your bronze from this weekend? Or was there something else you wanted to get to before we jumped into this?
No, my bronze has to be Los Angeles Chargers and the San Francisco 49ers. First of all, why are the San Francisco 49ers Chargers? There's some teams, they're just hurt every year. Why the Chargers were falling apart in the game?
There's some teams they just don't. Again, I don't know if it's the medical staff. I don't know if it's
I think it's all. I think it's everything. It's just amazing. These dudes are falling apart. The Chargers are in trouble as well.
Oh yeah, the Chargers they went to give Tyrod Taylor a shot last year. They punctured his lungs. Like they that's the kind of operation they're rolling with. And it's like, yeah, it's hard for me to judge what Justin Herbert's done this year because his ribs are messed up, and I have no idea where he is health wise.
Man, this team is trending down.
Oh yeah,
the defense should be playing better. They were, hey, you got Khalil Mack. Brandon Staley, is he on the hot seat? Because he's a defensive-minded coach. He has a defensive background, and this defense is giving up 145 yards of rushing per game. They only gave up 51 yards in the first half. Woohoo! But there was about the 4-minute mark in the second quarter, you started to see the San Francisco 49ers. The momentum started to shift, and they started to impose their will on the Los Angeles Chargers. The defense isn't there. Justin Herbert he's a young star that they were supposed to add some people so he can win games late for you. They're trying to win the game early. Mm-hmm. They come out passing. I've never seen so many teams on 4th and 1, 4th and 2 pass the ball so much in my life.
I mean, we'll talk about it somewhere else, too. It feels like short yardage running the ball is becoming like a market inefficiency almost. If you can do it, it's like gold in today's NFL because there were a couple of games. But it's
almost like they're almost like they're shunned, though.
Oh, definitely.
Now, running on 4th and 1, you better not do it.
I mean, you see teams line up in shotgun on 4th and 1. That's disgusting.
Yes.
Disgusting.
I wouldn't call it disgusting.
No, it hurts my soul. It genuinely does. Like I like power football. Like I genuinely do. I had this debate with someone the other day. When I'm watching football, a long run, like let's say a guy takes it from his 20 and scores his own 20, 80-yard run. To me, that's more pleasing to watch than an 80-yard completion. Because it's not 80 yards in the air, it's like 50, and then it's a run. For that momentum, when you see the running back in it in the backfield, he breaks through that first line, and you're like, wait a minute. Is he gonna do this? And then you see the route.
So you just say, I think because it's so much more, it's
rarer for sure.
It's much more dramatic.
Oh, definitely. It's the build-up.
Yeah, like he has to. Yes, he runs through the line, then he takes on the linebacker and stiff arms.
Takes a cut.
He has to. Then he got to square up the safety, and then the safety closes his eyes and whips, right? And then it's a scamper up the sideline. Yep. Is that what you're referring to?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you just don't see it as much. Like when Derrick Henry, specifically, when King Henry, excuse me.
Yes.
Because he's not, there's a couple of guys who they get to their top speed those first 2 steps. It takes him about 10 of those things to get to that. He's an old Buick.
Hey, that locomotive.
He's an old Buick, you know what I mean? Like
Buick Skylark.
Yeah, he can't get to 0 to 60 in 2 seconds like these Ferraris, like a CJ2K. But when he gets to that top speed, forget it. And watching him build up that momentum.
Bull in the China closet.
Yeah. Watching him get to that top speed, it's like, oh man. Like every step he's getting a little faster, and then he's just gone. And that's to me what I love. And it's just, you don't see it as much anymore. And there's a game we'll get to. They won that game because of a late run.
Who?
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. A little tease. That's what we call tease in the business.
Okay.
My bronze was Lions Bears. Because A, the Lions are on a winning streak. I can't remember the last time that happened. But B, I think Justin Fields is must-watch TV. He's become must-watch TV when he's playing right now. The Bears, we just talked about it with multiple quarterbacks. This is his second year. And it took halfway through his second year for the team to be like, you know what? We're going to play to your strengths. We're actually going to do the things you are good at. And
wow, how about that, huh?
What a concept. What a novel concept.
That's great, especially, them drafting them for the future.
Trading up for them. Yeah, I mean, earlier this year, it was like is this guy the worst first-round quarterback of his own class? And now it's like, he might be the best. He may just be the best of those 5. And they got him Chase Claypool, who hasn't done much yet in terms of catching passes, but that offense still has a ways to go. But watching Justin Fields has been a delight, even at the expense of my Patriots. That's when it started.
Hey, Claypool was an interesting guy.
Why is that?
Because Claypool is one of those receivers, big target. Watching him in college at University of Notre Dame, I thought he should have switched to tight end.
Interesting.
Right? And then he comes out and has a dynamic rookie year. He's a jump ball guy. Mm-hmm. And then now that the gig is up and people realize his limitations and making him beat their teams are making Chase Claypool beat them with good routes, and he just can't. He struggles. And he's at a storybook franchise, so he becomes advertised as a young up and coming. See him on the I Am Athlete podcast. He talks about I consider myself one of the best wide receivers in the game. I'm not sure how and why, but he believes it. And I think it has to do with sometimes there are players who are just okay, but go to big football markets and sometimes are seen, they're marketed as a much better player than they actually were statistically.
Yeah, their stock gets inflated for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Remember Miles Austin?
Okay. Oh yeah.
With the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing pretty good.
Oh yeah.
But man, he had that star on his helmet, and all of a sudden, he people were saying that what kind of player he was, right? And I'm just using that as an example. Chase Claypool is a decent receiver. I would say he's probably a bottom tier 2,
okay,
kind of top tier 3.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair.
But but because he's played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's walking around like, he can run any route in a route tree. And he's really limited.
And like the Steelers specifically, outside of them being a big market historic franchise, they have had a run where they've just been nailing wide receiver draft picks.
Oh, definitely.
So
absolutely.
Because I think he had 1,000 yards his rookie year. So I think when people see that, they're like, oh, here's another one. And even if he is just good,
and he looked great,
definitely.
And then they move him to the slot, which is not where he is. He wasn't dominant in the slot because he's really big. He's stiff in the hips. He takes a little bit of time for him to build up. Well, none of those things are good attributes playing in the slot. Too long to build up, not stiff hips, not a great route runner.
Right.
That are all the qualifications that disqualify you from being a pretty good slot receiver.
Right. You just described the opposite of Julian Edelman, like the exact opposite.
Yes. Yes.
But I think it's interesting because the Bears made a trade this preseason for N'Keal Harry, who coming out of Arizona State, he was just a 50-50 guy.
First of all, I even said that I thought Brandin Ayuk was a better version of N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, a lot of people said that
at
that time, so that hurt.
Here's what you had. N'Keal Harry was subject to the hype of having Herm Edwards as the coach. Herm understood, man, I got to build this program up. I got to use my connections in the league to push a kid who was not a first-round draft.
No, he shouldn't have been.
He would still be on that team. Listen, when receivers are drafted in the first round and they don't play up to their potential, man, late second or third round, if they were drafted then, it wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
But when they're drafted in that first round like N'Keal Harry, that's bad news.
What hurts, because I think what speaks to your point N'Keal Harry bought in when it came to run blocking, when it came to doing the little things. So yeah, if he were a 4th, 5th round pick, yeah, he's a Patriot for life.
He'd still
maybe.
be playing.
He might be a Patriot for life.
I agree.
But that first round tag, especially when it's over a Deebo Samuel, when it's over an AJ Brown, who was crying when the Patriots didn't draft him, that makes it tough. That makes it hurt.
Yep.
But
it's tough.
Considering he was a jump ball 50-50 guy, bigger body, stiff hips, like you're saying, should play on the outside. The Bears targeted him as a buy low guy, but then they go and get Claypool when he's available. So it's like they, for whatever reason, they believe that type of player will work with Justin Fields.
Well, that has because of the inerrant throws,
yes.
Right? That's that. I think they're kind of in that wingspan, 6'2" and up, 225. Let's go ahead and make the window bigger to compensate for some of the things that are happening. So that's just kind of my assumption.
Yeah.
But N'Keal Harry, I don't know what to expect out of N'Keal Harry. I don't expect a Hall of Fame. I don't expect a Pro Bowl. I don't expect a Pro Bowl out of Chase Claypool. I think he can be that if you put him primarily in the position the Pittsburgh Steelers put him in his first year.
Yeah.
Jump ball specialist.
Yeah, and I think next year if the Bears add an actual slot guy, if they start adding to that offense, which it seems like they're primed to do, and get him in the role he's best suited for, he might go back to that guy we saw with the last remaining shreds of Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. Now, here's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Chase Claypool cannot play. All I'm saying is Chase Claypool is limited in his route tree this year. Can he prove me wrong? Yes. He has room to grow and improve. That's what the offseason is for. But I'm saying when I look at Chase Claypool, he does not make me go, ooh, like a guy, Justin Jefferson. First of all, great game, Minnesota Vikings
and the silver?
Buffalo Bills.
This is my gold, like comfortably.
Oh yeah, it's my gold, but it's. I just brought it up because Justin Jefferson, I believe, is on a precipice of being the best wide receiver in the game. Someone told me that Justin Jefferson has the ability to run routes and the savviness of Devontae Adams. But why he will pass Devontae Adams up as the best wide receiver, and I'm not talking about statistically. Statistically, Tyreek Hill is statistically ranked number one. But I'm talking about what we can assume and expect for at least the next 5 years.
Projecting based off where they are now.
Projecting opinion and information that Justin Jefferson, I believe from today moving forward for the next 5 years, arguably will be the best wide receiver because he has routes, but the difference that he is not missing, that Devontae Adams is missing, is that long distance home run. Devontae Adams is savvy, but Devontae Adams is not running 4.3.
Right.
Justin Jefferson, they call him the Jet. That boy can fly. He's catching a ball and doing things that, man, we just imagine we could catch. Late hands, jumping up, mossing the ball, just doing all these things. Runs after catch. Justin Jefferson is balling. Watching that game the other night, it was just outstanding. One-handed grab. Yes, he disappeared in the third quarter because he had a first 2 quarters, he was balling. Mm-hmm. Disappears because the defense takes him away. Buffalo Bills said, hey, if we want to win this game, we have to apply pressure to Kirk Cousins and stop Justin Jefferson. If we could do those two things, we have a chance. And in the third quarter, it looked like they were doing it. All of a sudden, Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell, the Minnesota Vikings, said, and Kirk Cousins said, "All phooey. The hell with y'all. I'm going to my guy." Give me the gritty master himself. I'm going to force feed him like an old Wu-Tang Clan song. We just going to keep feeding him and feeding him and feeding him and feeding him. I mean, the catches that he made were outstanding. 157 yards, and it was quiet. It was a quiet 157 yards. It was like, what? Huh? Who? It was ridiculous.
I was going to say 193. That was the total.
Yeah, 193.
150 was.
That was where I was.
150 was CD.
150 was. My point is just, he's just doing it, and he's doing it. He's doing it and doing it well. Like, it's unbelievable. And I just see Justin Jefferson. He's the most complete wide receiver. Young, still learning.
I was going to say, would you?
Kirk Cousins is balling.
We're projecting forward 5 years, but would you say he's number one right now, or is it still Adams off the respect of what he's done?
Adams, Adams' fault isn't his fault.
I agree.
The Vegas Raiders aren't doing well. Statistically, Tyreek Hill he's on the verge of hitting 2,000. He's going to break that. But I'm just talking about what he's doing week in and week out. Like, he's the go-to guy. This isn't like sometimes with Miami, Tua's playing great. He's put himself in that MVP category.
Agreed.
Josh Allen's falling out of that category.
Big time.
You know what I say about them heroes? Leave that to the sandwich companies. But Josh Allen is becoming his worst enemy. He just is doing things that you just go, bro, stop it. I was hoping the fact that Josh Allen's elbow was hurting, that meant that he would not do some of the things that he was doing, and he just did some things. I'm like,
did it more. He
yes.
reverted back to the guy people were worried about coming out of college, like trying to do too much.
He was doing too much.
And it was also...
Right? And then you got Kirk Cousins out there. He wasn't trying to do too much at all. Kurt was over there like, look, this pressure's coming, hot potato. Get open and get it real quick.
And this is the game I'm talking about when I was alluding to running. They gave the ball to Dalvin Cook down. A cardinal sin, if you ask some coaches. They gave the ball to Dalvin Cook late, and I saw it was, I can't remember who posted it, but Justin Jefferson helped spring that run, that long
with
touchdown. Yeah, with an incredible block coming in, the safety coming down. So you talk about Justin Jefferson doing everything catch-wise. He's also doing the small things like blocking.
Yes.
So that's where it's like, oh, yeah, he's complete. He's doing everything.
Yes.
But you see the Bills late in the game, a team who kind of following the Rams' footsteps. Like, yeah, we're not going to really run the ball that much. We're going
to Hey, back up.
I'm not saying that. Listen, I'm not saying record-wise. I'm saying philosophy-wise.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think Hines is going to help them later down the season, right? Because he's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's going to step up. Cooks for the Buffalo Bills, he's still young. He's still making mistakes, right? I think that's going to benefit him. But what I really love about the Buffalo Bills, that was my goal.
Oh, yeah.
I skipped. But what I loved about that game, it was a heavyweight match. It was just great football altogether. It reminded me of back in the 80s and 90s when I was watching football in Los Angeles, and there weren't all these networks. There weren't any ticket. There was, if you were a good football team on the West Coast, you're being shown, right? You talk about it, the Minnesota Vikings remind me back when Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon, when they were back there. It reminds me of the Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, Pittsburgh Steelers, those teams that you knew every year you were going to get some great football if they were on TV. Even the down year, they're the Las Vegas Raiders, but they're the Oakland, LA Raiders with Bo Jackson, Chris Allen,
Marcus Allen.
not Chris Allen. Marcus Allen, Harvey Williams, right? 22, he was all thin. Napoleon Kaufman. right? James Lofton. Just old, good football. That's what I saw. I literally wrote, great game overall. Some people are panicked about the Buffalo Bills. I'm not panicked. What I believe the Buffalo Bills losing to the Jets and the Minnesota Vikings, what they did was say, the Jets are actually a really good team.
Yep.
They're not a team that you go, oh, the Bills play down. They're a team that defensively and offensively, they have something to them. And the Minnesota Vikings, now I think for the 7th time, have won a one-possession game where last year they couldn't win a one-possession game to save their life.
Well, this is something one of our first episodes. I told you the Bills struggle in one-possession games, and they.
Yes, they're 8-13, I believe.
And I think Josh Allen's.
But when they +9, they're like skyrockets through the roof. I think it's like 8-3, whatever. You did say that, and I hated that you said that. But I'm still not camping on that. What I'm just trying to say is Minnesota Vikings are a better football team than people give them credit.
Well,
I don't believe this. You need to panic about the Buffalo Bills. You just need to be excited about your Jets and Minnesota Vikings because those teams are for real.
I think people are down on the Vikings because they're kind of a cursed franchise. They've had hot starts like this before, but it's like I think even Vikings fans are like, well, what's going to happen December and January? So they
and see, but this is what I love. They're not having a hot start, bro.
I agree.
Winning one possession games is not a hot start. This is a team that now they can go back in their bag of tricks when they get down, and they have been there. They have traveled this journey of what do we do? What plays can we run? Can and will Kirk step up? Who is Justin Jefferson? Adam Thielen? Who are all these people? And they have shown you over the span of games, Justin Jefferson can ball. Kirk Cousins has the fortitude and the patience. Kevin O'Connell has this team going. The defense can step up and make a play when needed.
Patrick Peterson's looked great this year. Great.
Yes, playing zone coverage. It doesn't matter what he used to be. He's playing for this team what they brought him here to be, which is an impact player. I'm excited, and I love that game. Then the silver for me. Then the silver, well, for me is Dallas and Green Bay.
Same.
I think it was great because I got to do Thursday Night Football. That the Green Bay Packers played well, but it also what I really love about that is the experience that these young receivers are getting, and also that the Green Bay Packers are actually gave the Dallas Cowboys a little bit to chew on, to think about, that hopefully now makes this Eagles and Dallas game even more valuable because the Washington Commanders beat the Philadelphia Eagles last night, in which I watched a little bit of the game. I watched the end of the game, the beginning of the fourth quarter, and just saw, listen, I know they're going to go with Taylor Heinicke. He can do this. He's just too risky for me, man. He does some stuff that he's a gunslinger with no bullets and no gun.
But the team plays better with him than any of the other options they've thrown out there the past couple of years.
Yes, because Carson Wentz is not very good.
I agree.
That's why they play
I
better.
agree, but Carson Wentz hasn't been the only guy they've trotted out there. You know what I mean? Like the Commanders have brought in other quarterbacks that also have not worked. Yeah. And for whatever reason, when Heinicke gets in there, for whatever reason, because I agree, I don't think he's that good, but for whatever reason, the team plays more confidently when he's in there.
They do. But there was 3 or 4 times he gave the game away, man.
Definitely. Yeah, that's you live and die.
Quez Watkins, if he catches if he doesn't fumble, man, they win that game. But they didn't. Yeah. And Heinicke gets all the credit. That defense will keep them in games. I don't trust Heinicke. I do not trust him.
No, and I mean the Commanders don't, because they keep trying to replace him every offseason.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't aim high enough. They just keep replacing him with other versions of him. Like him and Carson Wentz, it's like what I say with Zappy and Mac. They're the same guy. There's no difference in like their physical traits. They make the same mistakes. They have the same strengths. But for whatever reason, one guy plays more confidently than the other. Carson Wentz hasn't played confidently since that year. He almost won MVP before he got hurt. He has not been the same guy at all. And then Heinicke, he almost beat Tom Brady in a playoff game last time he was in the playoffs.
Almost.
Right.
Yep.
For the Commanders, that's a lot. For baseball, they're not the 90s Redskins, you know what I mean? The early 90s Joe Gibbs team. They're not them. They haven't been them for a long time. So that means
they haven't been that since the 90s.
Correct. Yeah. That 1 year with RG3 looked promising, and then they broke him. So it's like I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know what they think they can get better than Heinicke at this point. Like we talked about free agency, unless the Seahawks don't tag Geno Smith and he becomes like the hottest free agent quarterback since Drew Brees. I don't know what they're gonna do in terms of actually upgrade.
Well, I'm not. Minnesota beating the Buffalo Bills, I'm not worried one bit about the Buffalo Bills.
Well, what I was saying before with the running game with the Bills, they get the ball on the goal line at the end of the game. Whether or not they should have even had the ball in the first place is a different conversation. I thought that game was officiated horrifically. I think Justin Jefferson, the times he didn't catch a pass was because he was tackled before the ball got there, and there was just no yellow on the field. There was no but when Gabe Davis gets a hand on his shoulder and the ball's thrown into the stands, they throw that flag. I thought that was interesting. But Josh Allen, all he needs is a yard. He's just going to fall forward. You would think there's no better quarterback for that. And he fumbles. And it's like the Bills don't go.
That was tough.
The Bills don't line up under center a lot. They don't. This is what we were talking about earlier. They don't know how to play short yardage.
The fundamentals of football have gone away.
Right. And that's a problem. That's where it's like, I do kind of worry about the Bills. They've lost first place. They didn't expect the AFC East to be this competitive. They kind of thought, oh, Tom Brady used to strut through this division playing tomato cans every year. That's not the AFC East.
Yes.
That's not the AFC East.
But here's the problem. The Buffalo Bills back in the day were the tomato cans.
1,000%. Listen, they're the only team in the AFC East without a win in the division. They're still the tomato cans.
Wow. Look at that. Oh, we're going to talk about your team next.
Oh, we're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there.
What was your silver?
My silver was the same as yours, and I wanted to speak specifically about the 2 interceptions Dak threw. Were those on Dak, or were they on
pressure?
Well, the first one was kind of in the middle of the field. I don't think CD ran the most crisp route he's ever run.
No, he's supposed to cross that face. That was CD's fault. He's supposed to cross.
I think it was both. I think the first one was on both of them because even if he runs that route perfectly, it was triple coverage by the Packers. Like it wasn't the best idea to go there. The second one,
that's true.
The second one, CD kind of runs this little lollipop of a route. Looks like he may have thought the ball was never supposed to come to him on that play.
No, it looked like it was like a seam route. Take it back door. And he should have crossed his face, but he also shouldn't have thrown that ball.
So you think both of them are on both of them?
Well, that's one. Yeah, it's on both of them. It really is. I hate to say it. Receiver, the receiver's like, bro, I can't cross his face, and I hope you don't throw it, so I'm not going to cross his face. And he threw it. That's why he throws it.
Yeah.
Dagnabbit.
The Cowboys every year remind me why I can't fully believe in them. They have a game like that. They have a game where Mike McCarthy.
But I thought the Green Bay Packers played really well, though. I think their defense stepped up. They were applying pressure. They made Dak Prescott uncomfortable. They didn't allow Tony Pollard to get going. They did some things at times where the momentum finally changed. But I think why and how is because of, even though Aaron Rodgers had a little mouthful to say, here's why I love, and I want to bring up this play. When you allow your young receivers, everybody's talking about Christian Watson, he's not there yet. He's not there yet. He wasn't there yet because you got to play the game. Yeah. Man, let me show you a route. His second touchdown pass. So here's the cool part about this. So they have what we call a reverse. They come out, reverse split, reverse release. But what I love about this play, right? Pause it right there. What I really loved about this play, because Christian Watson has been playing, a young receiver in his third touchdown, he runs across, he uses his speed. That's what you're supposed to do. You use as much real estate as you can, get across fast. But what Christian Watson does in this, a young receiver is just going to run as fast as he can. But he keeps the integrity, gives an indicator step. By weaving, he makes the corner second guess. Now the corner is running with him. Corners are taught, never bite on the first move. The second move is the real indicator of where they're going. He gives him a little weave, keeps the integrity, then gives him an indicator step, which is the third move, that tells him, I'm going the opposite way, but he's biting on, that's the real move, and then across his face, then uses his speed. That's why this was a good game for Christian, because he's also showing Aaron Rodgers, he's also learning the game in which he can only learn by playing.
Right.
The mistakes he's had them because this is the first time he's experienced it. He went to Delaware.
North
Dakota, Delaware, same place.
It wasn't the SEC, yeah.
It wasn't the SEC. They aren't playing BCS teams every year. So go ahead and run it. You can see he crosses the guy's face. He weaves them. Bang. Then he gives an indicator step, and he takes off in his speed.
And that's not even horrible coverage, looking at it from that angle.
That wasn't horrible coverage. It was a setup by the receiver. Right. You're saying horrible coverage.
I'm saying it's not horrible coverage.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not. He just used, and you need that type of play. I don't want to say this is coming out party, but what I'll say is it was a great teaching tool and gives him all the confidence. And it shows Aaron. That's why when Aaron said, man, people can't do it, they just don't need to play. That's why they need to play. Right. You aren't going to learn that by watching somebody else do it, because somebody else doing it makes them, you don't know what they were thinking. You don't know what happened to play before or to play after, or what he did or didn't do. You don't see the little internal battles psychologically, but also if the corner's pulling his jersey, just all those little things that you have to go through that you don't go through if you don't play.
Right. You see the how, you don't know the why. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that game for the Green Bay Packers, that helped them.
Oh, yeah.
Because Green Bay Packers were in trouble. Now, the Green Bay Packers playing the Tennessee Titans this week, I'm worried for the Tennessee Titans.
I think I saw the Titans.
Because the Tennessee Titans, they're the team that you don't want to face.
Yeah, they're annoying.
Because they're not offensively, they're not very good. But they make you play. If you're not a team that finishes, you won't beat the Tennessee Titans. No. If you're a team that allows them to hang on and linger, they will beat you.
I think I saw they have 77 pressures the last 2 weeks. Aaron Rodgers does not want to play the Titans.
Oh, did you see Russell Wilson running for his life?
You know I'm not watching.
And I hated watching. I have to because Tennessee Titans playing Green Bay Packers. So I had to. That's what made me take a halftime Call of Duty break.
Palate cleanser.
That turned into 4 hours.
But yeah,
it is, goodness gracious. But the Tennessee Titans, the problem with the Tennessee Titans, they're averaging 18.9 points a game, and they're giving up like 23 points. That's never going to work out.
The Broncos.
Right? No. The Tennessee Titans.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Tennessee Titans can't score points. They don't push the ball down the field. They just don't try. And when King Henry is not, when teams are committed to stopping them, it's just, And watch it. Let me tell you something. Moving forward, my Browns has to be the Las Vegas Raiders against the Denver Broncos. Let me tell you, that game, because they both have not lived up to the hype, I want to see what Josh Daniels does. But also, too, man, watching the Denver Broncos is like watching Denver Broncos play is like watching paint dry.
I think that's disrespectful to drying paint.
Yes, because it is. Because at least when when paint's drying, you can actually, there's indicators that is dry. There is no indicator, other than my personal opinion, that the Denver Broncos are not a very good football team. They're not very good.
I mean, both those teams stink. They stink real bad.
Yes,
I saw someone say if the Broncos scored 18 points every game, they'd have only one loss. So it shows you how truly bad they've been, that they haven't been able, like they're wasting,
because their defense is that
they're
good.
wasting a really dominant defense. And that's a defense that traded away Bradley Chubb because they see the writing on the wall with this season. They don't want to pay him. And it's like, we truly have, like Patrick.
Well, first of all, not paying him. Who said he wanted to get paid by them?
For sure. It's certainly on the table.
Like, it has to be a mutual agreement.
Right. Yeah. It's like, do I want to play with Let's Ride for the next 5 years, or do I want to just live in Miami? Like, it's not a hard decision.
Well, how about can I compete for a championship?
Also.
Yeah. So that's my bronze for week 11. I want to see what happens. Who you got?
My bronze is Bears at Falcons. It's Justin Fields going back to Atlanta.
I'm not watching that stink game.
I think Justin Fields makes it watchable. What he's done these last 4 weeks, anytime you're breaking Mike Vick rushing records, I'm tuning in. Yeah. I'm tuning in for that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Does Ritter play?
I don't know that it matters. Like the Falcons aren't going to throw the ball regardless. Arthur Smith doesn't know you can do that. So that's
no, you can. He's tried, and Marcus Mariota, Arthur Smith is committed to the run, and I respect
definitely
because he also knows what Marcus Mariota is not.
Correct,
and there's nothing wrong.
1,000%.
I like the fact that they know exactly who they are. It's too many teams out here that don't know who they are, and that's the problem.
I agree, but it's also, this is a team that passed on drafting Justin Fields. And he remembers that.
Yeah, that's true.
He remembers that. So
Are you sure? Do you know that? Do you know that?
He forgot.
Do you know?
He forgot the Falcons draft.
He might have forgot. He got Chase Claypool, man. That'll make you all better.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what he does in that game.
All right, I'm not. I'm not. My silver. Your New England Patriots against the Jets.
This is my goal.
You stole one last time. Does Zach Wilson play within the confines of what the defense gives him, or is he going to try to go out there and play that hero ball, that trick 'em ball?
I believe the Jets have lost 13 straight games to the New England Patriots. I believe that's, like, I'm not just saying.
Robert Saleh says keep receipts. This is a better team, though.
The last time they said that last time going into the game against, but they already used that.
Well, that was because Zach Wilson threw the game away with some bonehead play.
He did that last year twice. I don't know why I expect that to change for the fourth time.
I think the Jets are going to win. What do you say, Coley?
There's nothing that proves to me that they are capable of. If they had Breece Hall, I think I'd actually be worried. I genuinely would be.
Okay.
I can't worry about they haven't proven to me against the Patriots. Against other teams, yes, I do believe the Jets are legit. I think it's a good win for the Patriots when we beat the Jets now, as opposed to kind of like a pseudo bye week that it used to be.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is two playoff.
I believe
teams.
the Jets are going to win.
This is two playoff teams as of today. As of right now,
yes, they are. I think the Jets are going to get it. I'm wearing my Jets colors right now. You see?
Yuck.
Look at that. You see how I flipped the script?
Yuck. Disgusting.
All right, so I got the Jets over the New England Patriots. My goal, man, which Dallas Cowboys and which Minnesota Vikings team going to show up?
That's my silver.
Ooh. I'm excited about this one. Just watching Dallas Cowboys lost, but they played pretty good football.
Couple of mistakes, they win that game easy.
Yes. Minnesota, they're playing well. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Kirk Cousins handling pressure well. Kirk Cousins did have he looked a little confused with a little bit of pressure, but Kirk Cousins stayed in the pocket and delivered the football. In years past that he did.
Well, it's also the Vikings got down against the Bills. And in years past, it's like, the Vikings are down 7-10 points, what have you. That game's over. So the fact that now they're like, we actually believe we can go not only get back in this game, but win this game.
We have a chance to win. Yes.
On the road, all that, outdoors. So, yeah, that was a big win for the Vikings. And like you said, the Cowboys, I mean, they're in third in their division, and they're one of the best teams in the NFC. Luckily, there's that new third wild card, so they're not in too much trouble of missing out on the playoffs. But I bet they would prefer to come in second in their own division. They don't want to finish in third and go into the playoffs that way. So that is a very intriguing game to me. I'm in on that game.
All right. So who's your goal?
My goal is Jets at Patriots. It's a playoff game. I believe they're in the best division in football, the AFC East. And this is a big win for both of these teams. They both kind of need this win when it comes to jostling for playoff position, because I believe both of them are not only want to get there, they want to go deep into the playoffs, especially the Jets.
And they still play each other, right? And they still play the Bills.
Yes.
So that's the greatest part is like whoever wins out of the Jets in New England also still had to play the Bills one more time or twice to see how it all plays out. So it's really interesting to see how it's going to pan out.
Right. These division games matter tremendously for these teams. So the Patriots, they do have 2 left with the Bills, and I don't think they're going to sweep them, or they might not win either of those games. So if they want to get these division wins that will matter, they have that game in against Miami late in the season. So it's like, it's kind of a must win, more of a must win for the Patriots than it is for the Jets, in my opinion.
Okay. So are you looking forward to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh? What do you think about that?
Not at all. The Bengals are coming off the bye. They just gave Joe Mixon all the work last week. Jamar Chase is still on crutches, which when that injury came out, it was kind of like he's Superman. He doesn't get hurt at all. And now it's like he still can't really walk. So that stinks. Yeah. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are more of a real football team for whatever reason when TJ Watt plays. He's
TJ
night and day.
Goodness gracious.
Night and day when he plays.
It's night and day. Wow. He's an impact player. I see why he's defensive player of the year. Not really Sunday Night Football, Monday night, we got Kansas City and the Chargers. I don't really see Kansas City. They may kind of play down to their opponent, but I just see Brandon Staley doing something to help the Chargers not win as usual.
Well, real quick with the Chiefs, how happy is Kadarius Toney right now? If you're in Kadarius Toney's shoes, you were just with the Giants, who did not like you since the second they drafted you, and now you get Patrick Mahomes. And he catches his first touchdown. He's adjusting his gloves mid-route before going up and catching balls.
Well, here's what I would tell you about Kadarius Toney. The prior regime drafted him. He got in a doghouse with Joe Judd, Joe Judd. Joe Judd is a professional interviewer. He interviews well. He gets the job and mucks it up. Right? That's who Joe Judd is. He goes down, and then Kadarius is the new coaching staff, and it doesn't vibe, it doesn't gel, right? They tried, it didn't work, doesn't always work. Sometimes change is good for everybody. Kadarius is one of those guys. He can really thrive. I think he's gonna do well. I just don't see the Chargers. I think the Chargers, under Anthony Lynn, they sustained a lot of injuries. Under Brandon Staley, they sustained a lot of injuries. I'm just not sure what to really do about the Los Angeles Chargers. They just aren't living up to expectations.
They never do,
and they're falling apart as we speak. Like we're watching them just slowly just drop off. Like guys are getting injured. Yes, there's no game plan where your top 2 receivers can't play. Right? That's unforeseen. But they don't run the ball effective enough. It's just way too much. Just way too much. Look, all the guys that are under Sean McVay, right? Those Sean McVay guys, man, they struggle when they become head coaches, right? Zach Taylor, they're going to run the football. They're not running football, right? Cincinnati. I don't really see San Francisco 49ers really taking a step back with the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals, until they get rid of Cliff Kingsbury, the Arizona Cardinals will just always be a team that's a flash in the pans. They're going to put up big numbers, but they're always going to leave you walking away saying, I had high hopes, but there's always something that you just go, why?
So one thing, I follow a decent amount of Cardinals fans for reasons I don't fully understand myself, but one thing I saw them saying during the game stood out to me as alarming. They said Colt McCoy was running rollouts. They never call rollouts for Kyler. I noticed Rondale Moore is being used more vertically with Colt McCoy. Last year, he had an average depth of target of -1. They were all only exclusively throwing to him behind the line of scrimmage. A guy at Purdue who did everything for that offense. Down the field, short, everything. What is it with, you took Kyler first overall. You paid him. Like, this is the guy, Cliff was already there. He wanted Kyler. Why wouldn't you call designed rollouts for Kyler? Why wouldn't you have Rondale Moore do things you know he's capable with Kyler?
Well, that's a great question. Part of that has to do with the comfortability of the quarterback, right? I'm not going to say that Kyler isn't comfortable, but how effective is he when he rolls out?
I don't think we know because they don't call it.
Why don't they call it?
That's the question.
I think it has to do with just, with the offensive line, just some of the stuff. Ever since Kyler's gotten hurt, his running, he leaves plays on the field. And he may say it, but it's just like a wide receiver when you go across the middle. You may not fear going across the middle. You just may be inherently aware of where that safety is when you go across the middle. So what am I saying? He's always cognizant of when he rolls out what happens.
He gets smashed.
If you notice, he's stepping out of bounds. He's sliding. He's doing things because he's not scared, but he knows the consequences. Yes. So it's a lot of football. I know I'm not watching the Rams play New Orleans.
Heavens no.
And they're saying that Jameis Winston, Secret Santa himself might be playing again. So Cleveland Browns, I talked about a couple of weeks ago. They're waiting for their savior to come back. Deshaun Watson will fix all their ailments.
I mean, that defense isn't even trying at this point.
No. And they're getting injured. Carolina and Baltimore, what can we really expect?
Steve Smith Bowl.
I don't expect much. I'm really not. I hate to say it. I just don't see the Carolina Panthers. I don't see them really. I can see the Baltimore Ravens winning late, third, fourth quarter. I think the first 2 quarters they're going to give them a fight, but I just think they're going to get worn down. That's what I think. And then Baker's playing. So who knows? Who knows?
I think Dan Orlovsky had a chart on TV saying Baker's the most accurate deep ball thrower in the league this year.
He is.
That's the chart I was shown.
Well, that's great. Well, that's why charts and pieces of paper can't really talk for what a man can and cannot do.
I agree.
Yeah, he's the most accurate deep ball thrower. Okay, what's the record? Right. He also had 9 batted balls in how many games? 1 game. Or 5 batted balls in 1 game? Okay, armchair quarterback. My favorite segment. Let's throw it.
You're 7 for 10 on the season, so you're as dominant as they come. Derrick Henry against the Packers, 99.5 rushing yards. He's coming off 53 against the Broncos.
I would say give it to him. But Quentin Walker, I think he's been told his con was he's more of a reactive playmaker than anticipating. He started to anticipate things. So I'm really intrigued to see how he's going to impact the game in a run game against this run game for the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are going to run the football. They're going to line up and run the football. If it's snowing, they're going to line up and run the football. If it is sunny, they're going to line up and run the football. It doesn't matter what happens. Let me remind you, Tennessee Titans are going to line up and run the football. I can see him getting it, but then I can see him not getting it.
Tony Pollard, 22 for 115. So I think he got going a little later. But yeah, Derrick. So for me, it's like the Packers are coming off a game where they played well, and the Titans are coming off a game where they didn't run the ball that well. I almost expect them to flip.
But here's the problem, though. They aren't running the ball well is because they don't have their offensive linemen that have helped them. Dennis Daly was here in Carolina. He's not a good left tackle. He's not. And he's getting beat. They're running a lot of – you look at the direction of runs, they're trying to get off on the left end where I believe Dennis Daly is. Man, I think they're negative 23 yards, right? And that was Taylor Lewan's spot.
Before he went down.
Before he went down. Taylor Lewan was the starter. Taylor Lewan is not the backup. They're struggling. So I don't know.
It's a stay away?
I'll say yes.
Stay away?
I think it's a stay away. I think it's a stay away.
Jonathan Taylor. So this is what I loved about Jeff Saturday. Obviously, I understand he probably shouldn't be the coach, but I do think every single team needs a common sense guy. We talked about how uncommon common sense is. Jeff Saturday may not be the best X's and O's coach, but he came in and he said, Sam Ehlinger, just go sit down. Jonathan Taylor, we're just handing you the ball with Matt Ryan. Yeah, that's it. That's all. That's the big change we're making. And that's, to me, common sense. Like, play your better quarterback, give your good running back the ball. He went off for 163 last week against the Raiders.
Yeah, but it was against the
Correct.
The Raiders.
And now it's the Eagles, and it's not just the Eagles, it's the Eagles coming off a loss.
Pissed off
right.
Eagles. I'm not going with I don't think he gets
95.5, so you'd go lower. Because even before the Eagles lost, there were a couple people, specifically Mina Kimes, who were pointing out the Eagles' run defense may be to their downfall long term. Like their run, especially with Jordan Davis out. I know he's a rookie, but he's a monster. Yes, YC? Oh, total yards. Excuse me. I was reading that wrong. 95.
Okay. Oh, Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, he'll get that then if it's total. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going higher.
Because he's going to throw some check downs.
Yep. Justin Fields.
It might be like, yes.
254.5 total yards in Atlanta. I like the higher there.
Excuse me? Oh, that includes running and passing?
Yeah.
So that's basically 125 each?
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
Yeah, I can see him doing that. Yeah. I don't know if he'll get another 125 yards rushing. I think he'll get like 80 yards rushing. I think he'll get 200 yards passing.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
So I go with that one. I go with that.
DJ Moore.
What else?
And the 89 Bowl. 62.5 receiving yards.
Baker's quarterback. Nope. I don't know what it is. Baker don't look for
It's insane. Bro. Genuinely insane.
Yeah, Baker. Yeah. Nope.
Finally, Deebo.
He may get it because they may see they may see this and they emphasize, but no, I don't know. Who knows? Baker's like Baker's the potato salad person, right? You just don't let him. Nope. Just you let him bring the potato salad, sit the dish over to the side, nobody eats it.
It's got flies over
on
it.
the way out, you dump it in the trash. You dump it in the trash. Give him his bowl back. Take it home so he don't get in trouble with his wife.
And the last one, Deebo Samuel, 50.5 receiving yards. Monday night at Arizona. He only had 24 last week.
Yes.
Coming back from injury, obviously. And it's like the 49ers are still trying to figure out where they're at now that they have Christian McCaffrey.
So you're saying he'll get 50 yards receiving?
Just receiving, not total. Just receiving.
That'd be tough because they used him a lot in the run game. So, but they're playing Arizona. Yeah, I think he'll get it. I think
higher there. I thought it was interesting. Elijah Mitchell paced that backfield in carries last week. Is that something we're going to see moving forward?
I think so. It keeps Christian. It keeps him fresh. It also is they're two different styles of runners, so I think it'll benefit. Man, and the way the 49ers are doing that, man, they was picking off. I mean, it was boop, boop, boop. I mean, they were down to 3 linemen, 3 defensive linemen. So,
49ers looking scary.
They are, but they still have to play the Seahawks, though. See how that's going to go.
Yeah, that might be the most fun race to watch for the rest of the year for the division.
I agree. Yeah. Well, man, great show. Good job.
I'm happy it's the Christmas season. Seems like you are too.
Me too.
Is that your favorite holiday?
I am. Not really. I like Christmas, Thanksgiving. I just like that time, family, but also too like just I think the weather changes, the food. I just think the food, meaning like I love soups, right? So chicken noodle soup, chili, just that warm fuzziness and just I think it's more time just being in the house. So a little hot chocolate. Look, here's a great evening for me. Watch a little football, got my space heater, a little hot chocolate with marshmallows.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yep. And then eventually letting the game watch you. Just like I was watching the game this weekend and I heard myself snoring because I was on the couch. And I woke up, had a little drool coming out there.
Yeah, see who's around. Yeah.
No, it was nobody around. It was just me. It was just me and the television in my 49ers blanket. So.
Love it.
But, all right, I'm Steve Smith Sr. Hey, cut to it. Appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. See you guys next week.